How are you all doing? Yeah? It's good to see you all. I'm going to be standing up for most of tonight. I am going to email out tonight's downloads and slides. So if you'd like those and a copy of the downloads, just pop your name on the mailing list, because I don't just send this stuff out to everybody, only to the people who want it. And then I'll message you that stuff later on, and it's just the blue thing in the corner. Okay, so this is a topic that's really, really close to my heart. And I think, to be honest, to all of our hearts, no matter where we start off from, we start off in one of these, functional or dysfunctional. Most of what we believe about ourselves, about other people, about the planet, about who we are, about who other humans are, comes from our early family experiences and our early family environment. So tonight is it's a very gentle look at a very difficult and very deep and very beautiful topic. And it really is just the tip of the iceberg. Okay, what I can cover with you guys tonight about family healing is kind of like what's floating above the water in the North Pole versus what's underneath. So feel free to ask questions. I will properly do a healing demo on this tonight to actually let you guys see what it feels like to work through this stuff. What I will say about family healing is this. When I started, all I wanted to do and all I wanted to work on was family healing. The first book I ever wrote is called You Can Heal Your Family. Hello, welcome. The first book I ever wrote was called You Can Heal Your Family. It's sitting in my computer because I knew it wasn't finished. I knew there was still something that needed to come, but I threw it out with blood, sweat and tears, because when sometimes you write things because you want to, and sometimes you write things because you have to. And for me, family healing was because I had to. I had to get my thoughts clear. I had to get that energy out of my system. And I had to get Creator to stop downloading me with a lot of information 24 hours a day. But I knew it wasn't the first thing that I was going to publish. I knew it was the first thing I was going to write. And it was where I was breaking in my skills as a writer. But what I did learn as I healed people's family issues was how fundamental it was to every area of their life. Because what I would experience was I would heal a family issue and their health would improve. I would heal a family issue and their career would improve. I would heal a family issue and they would suddenly be able to get pregnant, right? So things that seemed to be completely unrelated to family were related to family. Now, I teach in two modalities. I teach in Theta Healing and in A Course in Miracles. And for me, Theta Healing is a really good way of applying the principles of A Course in Miracles. But the Course in Miracles pretty much resolves your deepest issues with God. Hello, welcome. So for me, one without the other wasn't enough. Because our deepest questions when we're alone in the middle of the night are not should I forgive this person, but how do I do that? Not, what's it called? Not is there a God so much as it does God love me? And without the answers to those questions, the other healings that we do are superficial. Because, for example, I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I had a new client call me, and he was referred from a friend. And if you like, you can sit at the table as well. There's a table there if you want to color in or read. There's a big, big, big table, so you can sit there on the chair if you want to. See? Just over there. He's going to sit there and color in or read. So he called me and said, I don't really believe in this stuff. And I laughed and I said, actually, that's what I'm for. Right? Because when you actually develop a deep enough relationship with the divine, you become a bridge. And I think at least 50% of my clients used to be people who had never had any experience of spirituality, didn't believe in anything. Right? And for me, family was that bridge back to Creator. It was the day I really deeply realized that I didn't want to go home without my family. And it was also a section of A Course in Miracles, because when you awaken spiritually, there's this belief that your family gets in the way of your spiritual growth and evolution. That the people who are around you are an issue and they're stopping you from growing. And actually, the more you study, the more you realize that heaven is entered 2 by 2. And that when you go back home, you go with other people. You don't go in spite of them, right? So it was those cracks that I got from my family situation in the beginning that let the light in. And when I had my spiritual awakening, it was the funniest thing, because I'd barely spoken to my parents for 2 years at that point because I was so angry at them. And when I had my spiritual awakening, I couldn't stop laughing for 48 hours. And when I went home, I was incredibly grateful for them and for everything that they'd done. And it wasn't an intellectual shift, it was an emotional shift. The love for them was unreal. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah? Now, in the craziness of everyday life with family and all the different layers of beliefs and contracts and agreements and stuff, which we'll go into tonight, that's hard to see sometimes, especially when you're in the thick of it. It's very hard to feel, okay? So a lot of the downloads we're going to be doing tonight are feeling downloads, not just thoughts, but really deep feelings. One of the biggest blocks that I find to people actually getting to the bottom belief is that they don't get to the bottom emotion. Does that make sense? Right? They got to the bottom, and that's why when you're doing digging with theta healing, and you'll see me do that when I do the demo, and you're taking someone down into their feelings, sometimes they'll repeat the same thought 4 or 5 times, but the feeling changes every time they repeat the thought. Anyone ever notice that? Even if you're having a conversation with someone, they're telling you the same words, but the emotion that they're dwelling in the presence of that thought is different, which means the memories, the unconscious memories, whether it's individual, whether it's family, whether it's past life, are changing because their energy is changing. So for me, as a rule, I've got 2 ways of telling, because I can tell some of you in the audience are very psychic. So you can tell because the emotion becomes really, really low, or because the person becomes defensive. Or you can tell because you get to a very deep, dark color in their aura, okay? And you won't find a bottom negative belief without going down. Does that make sense? Yeah? So I'm going to start going into it tonight. So this is me. I'm working on my visibility issues. Can everybody tell? So I've got a healing clinic here. I finally manifested after 10 years my own office. Ta-da! Yeah? You guys can have a peek at it tonight in the break. And it's got all of my nice little certificates for hypnosis and theta healing and counseling and stuff up on the wall. And it's really gorgeous and beautiful and white, which is what I manifested, with big, big windows. So my healing clinic is there at the moment, Mondays and Thursdays and Wednesdays now, because Mondays and Thursdays was fully booked up. So you guys are welcome to come and see me here anytime. I'm here for the next 2 years. Okay, so we're not going anywhere. We're not moving from spa to anywhere else. We're just staying put for 2 years. Okay, and my website is my name, so it's just skyakinesis.com. And if you want to email me any questions about tonight, about your own family, about your own issues, it's just sky@pandorastar. This is the Pandora Spa. Whoop, someone else. So you're welcome to email me or message me. And if you want the info for tonight, stick your name on the mailing list. Okay. So, as we talked about earlier, when you start to heal your family, the experiences you had when you're with them, the possibilities for your own growth and expansion are limitless, because not only do you have you inside your heart, you have all of your family members inside your heart. Okay? How you created the hierarchy for a family inside your mind when you were this tall is by modeling them. So your first experience of a father, hello Charlotte, hello girls. Your first experience of a father was the way you created the archetype of father. Your first experience of a mother was the way you created the archetype of mother. The first experience of sister and brother is the way you experience sister and brother. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah? And then you add birth order, so whether you're born first, second, or third. If you'd like to look more into the specifics of the beliefs around those, you can Google family systems or Brené Brown, and you will find a wealth of beliefs and information to remove and to put back. But basically, as we just went through, unhealed family issues are often at the root of health problems, poverty, illness, work issues, and romantic relationship blocks. Okay, 90% of my practice when I'm doing healing is my mum hates me or my dad hates me. When you get to the root of it, that's where it is. Does that make sense? Yeah? And often it starts off with very elaborate descriptions of other lifetimes or of work or of something else. But normally, especially when you start sending love to the baby in the womb, it's not the conscious part of you that's holding on to the belief. It's either an unconscious inner child or something in your ancestry, so in your family going back 800 years, yeah, that's holding you back. So tonight we're going to talk a lot about abusive or emotionally abusive families. And we're going to put that abuse into context so that you guys can know when it is abuse and when it isn't. And believe it or not, that's 9/10 of the battle. Because when you grow up in an abusive environment, and I'm not just talking about emotion, I'm talking about financial abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, neglect. Lots of different kinds of abuse are, as far as you are concerned, normal. And then they're perpetrated on another person or repeated in your life simply because you don't know that it's not normal. Right? And I'll give you examples from my own life. So we're also going to give you we're going to remove some beliefs, and we're going to replace them with loving downloads in its place as well. Okay? So I'll give you an example from my relationships. So I was taught from a very young age that sex was the most important part of relationships. Okay, I was taught this by certain family members from when I was about 4 years old. Okay, so I grew up with this belief that that's the way it was for everybody, right? And when I first moved into adult relationships and I wasn't old enough to be able to have sex, I would totally freak out, right? Not just consciously, but unconsciously, because in my head, I had the dual belief that I had the belief that sex was love, and I also had the belief that sex was abuse. Does that make sense? Right? So I was creating situations and creating fights all the time because I would want my partners to hit on me so that I could feel like they loved me, but when they hit on me, I felt like they were abusing me. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah? And another example was that I grew up in a very passionate Brazilian family, and there was a lot of anger in that family. When someone did something wrong, people expressed anger. Okay, so my second boyfriend grew up in a family where when someone did something wrong, you just ignored them. Okay, so when he did something that hurt my feelings, I thought it was perfectly okay to shout at him for as long as I wanted, and he thought it was perfectly okay to ignore me for 2 or 3 days at a time. Do you see what I'm saying? Right? Anybody here watch Friends at some point in their life? Yeah? You can see the different dynamics between Monica and Ross, her brother and sister, right? They think there's one episode I was watching 3 or 4 days ago whilst I was working on my email campaign, and it was really like literally Monica was going over to Ross's apartment and she just saw some money lying on the table and she went and she just took it. Right? How many people grew up in families where if your dad left money lying on the table, your mum might just grab it? Or vice versa, right? Or if your brother did, or it was all right to just take things. Brothers and sisters, anybody have sisters or mum steal their clothes? Yeah? I also had complete violations of boundaries in the bathroom, for example. One of the problems that I find a lot with my clients and that I experienced growing up was if you share a house with 2 or 3 siblings, you never get any time alone to yourself in the bathroom. There's always someone trying to get in. Right? So you develop all of these really strange behaviors around the bathroom that when you finally move in with someone and get married really don't serve you. Right? And those are just that's just what, like, the very superficial layer of beliefs and lessons that you learn around family. My grandmother, for example, she died of kidney cancer, but before that she had 3 bowel operations because she could not go to the toilet. Okay, why couldn't she go to the toilet? She had 6 brothers and they thought it was fun to knock on the door and make fun of her while she was in the toilet. Okay, so there can be trauma hidden in families in different ways that we don't even realize it's hidden, right? One of my partners thought that it was really funny to make fun of me all the time. And the way he hit on me was to shove me. He had 3 brothers. Okay, so unconsciously he kept casting me in the role of a brother. Okay, so that's what we do unconsciously with people and consciously. So that's the first thing I really want to get across to you guys, is that abuse can be conscious or unconscious. We live in a world where everyone tells us that abuse is always deliberate and it's always malicious. That's just not true. Okay, most of the abuse happens in ignorance. Most of the abuse happens in the lack of awareness that it even is abuse. Okay, some of it does happen maliciously. But how many times have you tried to stop doing something and not been able to? Right? Anybody have a habit they've had trouble kicking? Yeah? That goes the same for emotions. So there's a stage, and this is where the Course in Miracles really helped me, between you awakening to the reality that there is a wound in you, or that there's a wound in your partner, and between you being able to make the transition to not reacting or living from that wound anymore. So I'll give you an example. So when I first realized that getting angry was not the answer, which was when I was about 17 or 18 years of age, I didn't want to get angry. I wasn't spiritually enlightened enough, I didn't know anything about spirituality at that point, to stop being angry. But I was enlightened enough to know that acting on that anger was not going to work. It wasn't going to get me what I wanted. It was going to cause more problems. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah? And sometimes I was really, really angry. About things that were really, really a big deal, like my health, or like my partner cheating on me, or money issues. But I knew that anger wouldn't fix the problem. But I couldn't stop myself from getting angry. It would just hit me like a wave. Does that make sense? Right? This is why mercy is so important, because I'm not teaching you guys this so that you can become the police of the universe. Okay? It's not your job to leave here and point your fingers at everyone in your family and tell them that they're abusive, or that they're causing problems for you, or that they were abusive towards you, and use that as a way to try and change things. That doesn't work. Okay? It's not our job to spiritual police the universe. It's our job to become aware of where we're repeating these patterns, or of where we're allowing someone to abuse us in a way that's not nice, and to set those new boundaries in place in a loving way. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah? And to have infinite patience with those moments where somebody knows they're doing something wrong, but they're not yet enlightened enough or disciplined enough to have been able to change the emotion or change the behavior. Right? And I'll give you a really quick example from me with my partners, because in the past, if my partner, for example, was angry at me, or he was upset with me, and he didn't say anything, I would pick. I'd be like, I know you're not all right, tell me what's going on. Okay? And I used to think that that was me trying to get them to be honest about their feelings. As I matured and grew spiritually, I realized that that was me creating drama. Does that make sense? People are allowed to have feelings that they know better than to act on. I remember once being in the car with Todd on the way back from Scotland, and him saying to me, I know you're just as angry as I am. I know you're just as hurt as I am. I know that you're thinking as many horrible things as I'm thinking. And he's like, you're just as bad as me. You're just not saying anything. And I looked at him and I was like, yeah, you're 100% right. I am just as angry as you. But I know that whatever comes out of my mouth right now, if I open it, will not be good. Right? I know that whatever comes out of my mouth, whatever I say, I will not mean. So all I'm doing is letting my mind and my emotions do whatever they want and not saying it out loud, because that's not your problem anymore. Does that make sense? And there are moments when you begin this journey, when you decide, I'm not going to abuse any family member, anymore. I'm not going to make fun of my siblings. I'm not going to put down my parents. I'm not going to hurt distant family. I'm not going to ignore people. There is this stage in between where your family still gets on your fucking nerves. Pardon my language, right? Does that make sense? Yeah? Or where they do things that are excruciatingly painful, and all you want to do is donk them over the head. Okay? And those are the bits where you ask the universe for a miracle. Okay? Not the bits where you launch back into an old pattern. Okay? Those are the bits where you ask for a miracle. Those are the bits where you book a session with someone. Those are the bits where you go and have a shower or you meditate. You do not send that email. You do not send that text. Okay? No matter how much you want to, don't do it. Okay? It's not worth it. Only perpetrates really nasty old patterns. Okay, so what you're going to see me doing when I do the demo healing on people is muscle testing. Has everybody here done muscle testing before? Yeah, and everyone here knows what it looks like. Have you not done it before? You have, so we're all good. That's perfect. Okay. When I think I've spoken to you all about the 4 levels of belief as well, haven't I? Yeah, and that when we do the downloads, we put them in on all 4 levels and we remove them on all 4 levels. Yeah, I'll just quickly go over it because we've got a couple of, we've got, well, 9-year-old in the audience. The first, in Theta Healing, we believe that there are 4 levels of belief. So the first level of belief is 0 to 9 years of age, and when you scan someone's body energetically, you'll see the prefrontal cortex light up, okay? And that's all their beliefs from 0 to 9 to 10 years of age, okay? The genetic level is all your ancestral beliefs, and that goes back up to 800 years, sometimes longer, right? The history level is basically the collective unconsciousness. So the collective of being women and men, your education system, of a university, of a religion, of a country. Is that everybody with me? Yeah? And the soul level is past lives. So torture or slavery or imprisonment and, gender issues, homosexuality issues, and also gifts. So spiritual and psychic abilities, being able to instantly play the piano or paint from when you're born. You don't just carry pain on a soul level, you also carry gifts. Really beautiful, amazing gifts. When you scan someone's body and you ask to see their latent talents, abilities and gifts, you're looking at their soul level. Okay, it's one of the favorite things for me to do is to look at someone's latent talents, abilities and gifts. Okay, so one thing I want to make clear is that there are no monsters, okay? So people who abuse other people often do so unintentionally and unconsciously instead of deliberately and manipulatively. Their conscious, superconscious and past life motivations often come from childhood and generational woundings. So ancestral trauma, past life, disease, war, famine, sexism. For example, a very common wounding in men tends to be around wars. Okay, that's why men have, in the past, have a stronger tendency towards aggression than women, because for them there's a generational wounding that when they are under stress they attack. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah. And it's the other way around. For women, we tend to become depressed. That's a generational wounding, because if we were to attack, we would probably get killed. It worked in reverse for us than it did for men. Okay. Or we just said, sometimes people are aware that they're being abusive, they feel terrible and are unable to stop. 90% of the families that I've worked with, when I've worked with families as a group, did not know that they were being abusive. The 20% that did, normally it had to have someone tell them, either a social worker or a child or a grandparent or had some type of addiction in the family. So they were in Alcoholics Anonymous or they were in Al-Anon, and they'd been told, this is not okay, this is abusive. Right? So we tend to have agreements to keep family trauma secret, because it's only the last 200 years where this stuff could even be treated, right? Before psychotherapy and before counseling, this stuff was just family issues, right? If you had these kind of problems with your families, if you had, if your father hit you, that was pretty average, right? Even your teacher was allowed to hit you. Okay, so it was very, very different. But what I want to say is, and I truly believe it, is that there genuinely, in my humble opinion, are no monsters. Okay, and the way I see it from a spiritual perspective is that the ego likes to create separation. What you want on a very deep level is what we all want. You want to experience love within your family and belonging to a family and creating a loving family of your own. Okay. If you believe that the people in your family are monsters, you tell me, how likely is that to happen? It's not, okay? If you believe your partner is abusive, how the hell are you ever going to trust him again? If, however, you see this person as a human being that has abusive behavior sometimes, then you can move through that. Does that make sense? Yeah? The other one, nut I'd like to crack on the back, is that we all have abusive behaviors. It's not just some people, it's all of us. Okay? That's really, really important. All of us have areas in which we are less than perfect. All of us have areas where we crack and where we break under the pressure. Especially amongst women, this is less acknowledged. Right? And you can see this on YouTube videos. If you walk past, if a woman hits a man on the street, people laugh. But if a man hits a woman in the street, they stop, right? And women tend to verbally abuse a lot without realizing they're being verbally abusive, Okay, so when it comes to abusing men, it's taken me 7 years of detailed study to learn not to do it. Okay, in our culture, it's much more normal, it's much more accepted. And you can, it's a bit like baiting a tiger. Men tend to be more aggressive once you've baited them. Does that make sense? Yeah, and most women have no idea that they're being abusive when they're being abusive, just like most men have no idea that they're being abusive when they're being abusive. Okay, I'll give you a really simple example. I was working with a couple 2 weeks ago and they both came in, and the woman actually brought her husband in because she thought that he was abusive. And when we start, what I ask the couples to do when they come in is I ask them to record their last 4 or 5 conversations on the phone for me when they're on the phone. Okay, so I can hear how they talk to each other, the messages they're giving to each other, the belief systems that they have on the different levels. So when they came into my office and I had listened to these recordings in advance, what she constantly kept saying to him that she didn't realize was abusive was that she didn't like his job, that he was always working, that he put his work ahead of his family, right? That he didn't make a contribution at home. She was constantly on the phone giving him a hard time about working. Okay? This man's job was his life. It was his divine life purpose. Okay, obviously for confidentiality reasons I'm not going to say any names, but he was very, very respected in his field. He dedicated more than 30 years of his life to training in that field, and he was very successful in what he did. And she spent every hour of every day making him feel bad about it. But to her, he should feel bad about it. Does that make sense? Yeah? Instead of learning how to communicate from a space of, I miss you, I need your presence at home, she attacked the thing he loved the most over and over and over again. Yeah? And the more she did it, the more time he spent at work. Does that make sense? But she had no idea it was abusive, none whatsoever. And he thought his issue was that he couldn't stop getting angry at her. Right? Men, because of the amount of emotional abuse that they receive, struggle to verbalize when something hurts. Right? So he didn't know how to say to her, when you basically cannot respect me, when you don't respect my job, then I don't know how to be with you, I can't trust you, I don't know how to love you. Does that make sense? Yeah? He had no idea how to say that. He just knew how to get angry in that moment. Right? So abuse is really not always the most obvious, thing. Okay? So I want to make that clear. There are no monsters, and it's really, really important to slow down. Okay. So it's really important to slow down, as the buzzer says. Just stop for a minute. It's really important to slow down and take a look at what's actually happening. So if you fear that you're in an abusive relationship, or one of your friends fears that you are, what I would recommend that you do, hello.
Hello.
Good to see you. What I would recommend that you do is that you start a journal. Okay? Because the quicker you, journals force you to slow down. Journals force you to connect the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala of the brain. Okay? Because they force you to slow down, to write things out, to think about what you're writing. And they've proven that if you actually slow down enough to write just for 15 minutes every day in a journal, you recover from past traumas up to 85 times faster than people who do not. Okay?
Would you please repeat that when you are in emotion?
Sorry? Wait, I know you said please repeat it, but sorry, they're talking at the same time, so say that again?
If you can repeat,
Yeah.
in which moment you slow down and write?
Okay, so if you stop for 15 minutes a day and write about the traumas that you've experienced or whatever is bothering you, you are 85% more likely to make a complete recovery than people who don't. Now, they did a lot of this research when they were studying PTSD in war veterans, because a lot of the older generation still keep meticulous journals. They write every day. And it was actually a habit a lot of them got in the army or when they were working during the Second World War, because you had to keep a log of everything. You know, in Star Trek it says Captain's Log, Day 1. Yeah? If you're a scientist, you also have to keep a log. Every day you have to keep a log. Or everyone's seen that video with the giant avatar. Every day he has to make a video blog. Right? So when you are in a regime of any kind, normally you have to keep a journal, you have to keep a diary. And before there were video blogs or whatever, you had to write it down. Okay? And that was just for other people to be able to keep track of what you were doing. But the healing benefits of it are immense, okay? Nowadays, we tend to sit down and watch TV, but our great-great-grandparents used to sit down and write in journals, or they used to sit down and paint at night, right? Or they used to sit down and sew, but they did an act of creativity. So Brené Brown, who I love very much, she teaches that creativity is literally how you travel the distance between the head and the heart. If you want to know how to bridge that distance, if there's a part of you that's got what we call cognitive dissonance, so you know up here, for example, that let's say you're allowing someone to manipulate you or abuse you, but every time you're around them, you just let them do it anyway. That means you've got cognitive dissonance. On a vibrational level, it means you've got one vibration going on in your crown chakra, another going on in your heart, base, and sacral chakras. Does that make sense? Yeah? So it's cognitive dissonance in psychology, but vibrational dissonance in energy. And Vianna Stabile in Theta Healing, she talks about every organ of the body singing a different note. Okay? And how the body, if it becomes ill, sings out of tune. And it's the same thing. Long before it ever gets ill, you can feel the dissonance, the disharmony between one part of your thinking or another part of your thinking, or one part of your energy and another part of your energy, through your inability to align your behavior with your thoughts and feelings. Okay? Acts of creativity allow you to bridge that gap. Okay? As do downloads and different kinds of healings, but creativity is an amazing one if you're on your own. Okay? So 15 minutes a day in a diary will save you years of therapy, basically. Okay, or speed up the process. Okay, so there are different types of abuse in families, okay? And this is what we're going to be working to remove tonight. So there's domination, and domination is basically a feeling, and it comes from this old belief in families that you belong to your family, that you belong to your tribe. So it's not just a feeling of you being loyal to your family, it's a feeling of you are the property of your family. Does that make sense? Yeah? So can everybody just stick your fingers together for me? The muscle testing fingers, index and middle finger. And just start with a yes, 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 and a no, no, no. Yeah? Okay. So everybody muscle test for me. I'm the property of my family. Yeah? Okay. So when you're dealing with domination issues, this is what you're dealing with. So this is your family needs to know where you are, why you're there, how long you're there for. Most children grow up with this, okay? Until you're, 10, 15, 10, 11, 12 years of age, what you're doing at school, everything you do is watched by somebody else, okay? So families can dominate completely. Less than, up to 300 years ago, your family decided who your friends were, who you married, who you socialized with. Okay, and depending on what class you were in as well. Okay, so it was a very, very big deal. So then you can muscle test. My family makes my decisions for me. Yeah. Yeah. My family's allowed to drain my energy. Yeah, so all these come from the belief that we have that we can learn through domination, okay, and that somehow domination will keep us safe. The next one is verbal assaults. So most of us have had these, and at least cause a huge amount of damage. So it's having your family tell you what your abilities are, what your gifts are. Where you can connect with other people. I grew up with my mom telling me that I was antisocial like my father. Okay, so that meant that if I came home and I was like, I made these amazing new friends, she'd be like, that's really good. That means you're really getting over the antisocial behavior thing, right? So you were constantly being conditioned to be what they thought that you were. Does that make sense? When I was a kid, my favorite color was yellow, okay? But my mom thought my sister's favorite color was yellow. So every time people would say, what's your favorite color at school? I'd be like, it's yellow. And then my mum would come into school and go, no, you don't know her at all. Her favorite color is pink. It's her sister that's yellow, right? When you're little, you're getting these messages all the time and you don't even realize you're getting these messages, okay? And that's what verbal assaults are, is that when you're little, you're letting the people's verbal opinions define you. Does that make sense? Yeah, and it gets a lot worse than the ones I just used as an example, but you can see how verbal assaults cause issues. Neglect, the most underlooked at, under-healed issue today. Okay? Because for most people, what happens when the family stops being abusive, or when someone stops being abusive towards you, is that they start neglecting you. I believe this is at least how 50% of divorces happen. Right? You don't want to fight? Fine, we're not going to talk. Right? You go straight from abuse to neglect, and you don't even realize you've made the jump. Okay? Actually loving responsible behavior is to be like, okay, we shouldn't have raised our voices. Let's, go out and get a hot chocolate. Let's go for a walk. Let's calm down and let's get to the bottom of this. That's the loving response, not I don't want to be around you right now. Does that make sense? Yeah, but that's what we had. We had that jump from abuse to neglect. I don't like what you're doing. Go to your room. Get out of my sight. Right? So there was this idea, and there still is often, even in schools, you're misbehaving, get out of my class. Right? Go stand outside the door. There's this shift from abuse to neglect. And most of us don't realize that that was neglect. Okay? Because it is. Ignoring somebody, pretending that they don't exist, publicly shaming somebody, whether it's in front of their siblings, whether it's in front of a classroom, is still one of the most powerful ways that we abuse or neglect one another, right? Not socializing with people, okay? So, and I see this a lot with intimate partners. Let's say the wife wants to go out dancing once a week, or the husband wants to go and play golf, and they literally the husband will never make time to go dancing, and the wife will never make time to play golf, and they both act like the other's interests are retarded. Okay, they learnt that in their family, normally from having their siblings act like their interests were retarded. Does that make sense? Yeah, but it's still an act of neglect. There's 3 different levels of intimacy in that, and when you're a child, you learn to like yourself and like what you like. When you're an adolescent, you like what pleases you, so you like to be around people who do the same thing as you. But when you become an adult, you learn to like what makes people happy. Right? So I am never going to be, for example, let me use an example. Okay, I'm never going to be an enthusiast about ghosts. Okay, I will deal with them when I have to. They used to freak me out like hell when I saw them when I was a kid, but in my brain, going looking for them is a pretty scary thing to do. Does that make sense? But when my husband buys ghost equipment, my response is to be happy that he's happy. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah? If he wants to go ghost hunting, I'm going ghost hunting. Right? I'm not going to belittle or put him down. And I'm not going to use my defenses as a way of making fun of him for what he's doing. A lot of people do that to their partners because they're obligating their partner to resolve their unfinished family business. Does that make sense? Yeah? So that can happen, and that's still a form of neglect. Your inability to love and approve of what your partner enjoys. Now, you don't always have to do what they want to do, but if you're not doing what your partner enjoys doing at least 2 or 3 times, a month or every 2 weeks, you're neglecting them. Does that make sense? Yeah? Or you're being neglected. Okay? Okay, financial abuse. Another one that goes mostly unspoken. Okay, so when you're little, did any of you get given pocket money? Yeah? Was that pocket money ever a large amount? No. Did you feel valued when your parents gave you that amount of pocket money? No. What do you think they were teaching you about money? That was the first time you allowed yourself to receive money from someone you loved. What did they teach you? Unconsciously, right? Financial abuse that has a meaning to. That there isn't enough, and that you're a pressure or a burden on them by needing it. Okay? So there was already resentment going backwards and forwards. Often in financial relationships, one partner will earn more than the other, and especially if we go back one generation, to our grandparents or to our great-grandparents, the man would earn only and the woman wouldn't earn at all. Right? So there's a very big imbalance of financial power inside the family, and normally because whoever has the finances has the decisions. If you want to know where the power lies in a family, look at the last 6 decisions and who made them. Okay? Whoever makes the decisions has the power. Really, really useful if you're doing family coaching or if you're doing couples healing, because sometimes the person who looks like they've got no power made the last 50 decisions. okay? And the person who's the loud person is actually the one that gives in a lot, okay? But they do it kicking and screaming, but they do give in a lot, okay? Whoever makes the decisions has the power. If you want to, there's a really good book by a lady called Chloe Madans, and she's a family systems therapist in America. She is literally one of the best. She works side by side with Tony Robbins. She developed his whole family healing system with him. And she explains how power works in families and how to break it down. But it's really, that's for me the first time I saw about financial abuse. So if in your family finances weren't proportional, there was some level of financial abuse. It is really common. I see it in 99% of relationships and in families, period. Okay, financial abuse is still in our world the most normal form of accepted abuse. Okay, it's normal to financially abuse people. People don't expect you to share your money, particularly not in Western society, right? There is no mentality around it. It's barely even a conversation, right? So it's really important to start looking at the ways in which you financially abuse people. It's the two biggest things couples fight about is sex and money. Okay, so it's feeling intimate, making love, feeling close, or feeling emotionally intimate and close, and money, how you distribute it, what you spend it on, how often you spend it, who gets to decide where it goes. Make sense to everybody? Yeah? And most people don't realize that they're being financially abusive when they are. Okay, and I'll explain a little bit about how to end financial abusive patterns in a minute. Abusive expectations. So that's really, really basic one. Let's say you expect your partner to always make you dinner when you get home, or you expect your partner to not go and do any of the things that they love to do because you think that they should be with you instead. It's having very high expectations. Does that make sense? You know, if you have these, if you give your partner a hard time about spending time with their friends all the time, if you think that your partner should dress a specific way, if you think that your partner should do a specific thing and you don't know how to communicate that without guilting or shaming them, okay? It's also really common. Happens in families a lot. Yeah, so for me, for example, I'll give you an example of the abusive expectations that I was under. So every Friday was the day that after school, that before I was allowed to go and spend time with my friends, right? And bear in mind that I lived in a very small Scottish town, and on a Friday, that was the day everybody was going home for the weekends on the school bus. Now, I lived quite close to the school, so I wasn't going on the bus. And there was 2 hours between on a Friday where the kids got to play together before they got on the school bus to go home. I didn't see everybody till Monday. Is that everybody with me on the story? Yeah? So my mum made this rule that Friday was the day that the house had to be cleaned and that I wasn't allowed to go out and play with my friends. And I was 7 years old at the time until I cleaned the whole house. Okay? Unrealistic, abusive expectations. Right? It's amazing I don't have OCD. I do still have a little bit, right? I'll tell you a story. So I came in yesterday and my beautiful husband, yesterday was my clinic day, it was my work day, so it was 9 o'clock at night and I was still doing sessions with someone. And Todd was, you see that beautiful diamondy black carpet thing you guys walked in on? That wasn't there last week, okay, for those of you who weren't here. It was just horrible, cold stone floors. Okay, and those horrible cold stone floors, he was cutting the carpet, and then we had to open and close the door a lot of times to smoosh the carpet down, and he let me go inside because it's really hard to do. It's a really stiff door at the moment because the carpet's not low enough and he's going to have to sand it down, and he was there going like backwards and forwards, and I was inside going 1, 2, 3, 4. I was so happy at the number of times the door was opening and closing, and I was like, this is a throwback to OCD from the whole house having to right, I wasn't even like, why am I stuck in here at 9:30, you know, at night after work day? Why am I stuck in here watching the door? I was like, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sitting there going, you really want him to go to 30? I really want him to open and close the door 30 times. But I didn't say anything out loud, okay? So I still have a little bit of OCD from that. But that's an abusive expectation. There are many other abusive expectations. I had a client, for example, who had the deepest desire. I worked with him for 5 years, and he had the deepest desire to be a writer. And he just hit his 40s, and he'd been saving up to go onto this big writer's workshop in America that was a month in the summer. And it was a really difficult workshop to get into. And he was accepted, and he came into a session absolutely through the roof. right? He was really, really happy. And this was with the days when I was still working only as an angel therapist. And I was like, you look aglow. It's like, what happened? And he said, I got in. I really didn't think, you know how many people apply for this thing and don't get in? They let me in. I'm going to go and I'm going to do this. And then the next week he came in for his healing session and he was really, really low. And I said to him, what happened? You know, last week you were walking on cloud 9. And he said, my wife doesn't want me to go. And I said, why doesn't she want you to go? And he said, because she says she works just as hard as me at home with the kids and I don't get to have a month off and leave her completely on her own and go off. This was his dream for 40 years. And when it came to actualizing it, she didn't want him to go. Does that make sense? Yeah? So these are unrealistic expectations. There aren't just consequences to financial problems. There are consequences to emotional problems. Okay? Emotional decisions have consequences. Do you think that there was an emotional consequence to her decision to not let him go? Yeah. And it was probably a pretty big drain on their relationship, right? But it's abusive expectations, expecting your partner to sacrifice themselves for you and for your family permanently, okay, is an abusive expectation, right? I had another client the other week who came in completely upset. It wasn't last week, it's about 2 months ago, completely upset that her partner was going to stop paying alimony because her son was all grown up. Right? Now, they'd been separated for 15 years. And she was really angry at her partner that he didn't have to provide for her anymore, and she'd never learned to provide for herself. Do you see an unrealistic expectation? Right? She couldn't at that time. We had to work really hard on it during the session because her belief was, I cannot provide for myself. Right? Somebody needs to provide for me, which comes from the whole family domination thing, right? Only my husband is allowed to provide, only my father's allowed to provide, I'm not allowed to provide, right? She's now very happily providing for herself, but can you see how sometimes when we're being abusive, we don't realize we're being abusive? Yeah? Constant criticism, I don't need to go into that one. Emotional blackmail. The most dangerous one of this one that I come across, sadly, is people threatening to commit suicide. Family members threatening to commit suicide, partner members threatening to commit suicide if someone leaves, if someone starts to live their life, if someone goes forward. Okay? So it can be really, really scary. It can also be emotional. I had a client, well, actually last week, who I met in Glastonbury, bless her, and she wanted to separate from her partner, from her husband, because they hadn't seen each other in 10 years. They were literally living in different countries and they hadn't been together for 10 years. But every time she applied for a divorce, he would say that he would take the child away. Okay, emotional blackmail, right? Same thing happens in families. If you don't put me inside your will, then I'm going to tell everybody that you did ayahuasca and you have a kid and they're going to take your kid away. This does happen. Sadly, I work with people where it has happened. Okay, and there are many other things that do happen in that way. Constant chaos creating crisis. So often when family members don't get attention from one thing, they create drama in another way to get it. Okay, gaslighting, pretending nothing happened. Okay, happens with families all the time. You say, "Mum, you borrow." Sisters are easier. You say, "Sister, you borrowed that dress." No, I didn't. Right? I remember that time when you hit me. No, I didn't hit you. Right? You're just making it up. If you ever see little kids hitting each other and they're like, "He started it." No, she started it. Right? Because they're both gaslighting each other. Right? Gaslighting is really, really dangerous. To me, it's one of the primary sources of mental illness and one of the biggest sources of low self-esteem, right? Because if you've been gaslighted a lot, you don't believe yourself when you speak. The premise of gaslighting is that you're a liar or that you don't know what you're talking about and therefore you're insane, okay? So if a client comes into your office and they're like talking about themselves and every 5 minutes they tell you that they're crazy, you know that that's what happened. Does that make sense? They don't know who it happened to, as in you don't know who did it to them, but you know somebody's been telling them that they don't know what they're thinking, they don't know what they're doing. Can happen with a mum, can happen with a dad, can happen with a sibling, can happen with a partner. Sexual harassment happens more often than you realize. I've had to work with a lot of women that their mum called them all sorts of horrific names when they were an adolescent, when they started dating. So a girl would reach sexual maturity, she would start dating, and her mum would call her a whore. Okay, that's sexual harassment. I had a client recently who his mum always told him that he had to be a good boy, which in their culture means no sex until you're married. Right? So whenever he was starting to express sexual feelings or desires, she would tell him that he basically was a bad person. And the same thing is sexual harassment. Do you see where I'm coming from? Very unspoken about in family, really, really, really important. Right? If you think about teenagers being told by their parents, you're going to get pregnant, you can't just go out and sleep with everybody you meet. And on both sides, boys and girls. Okay, I'm not including things like genital mutilation and all the rest of it, which can be another part of it. My mum, bless her, and this is not sexual harassment, but when I was growing my breasts in, she was very excited, and we went into the supermarket one time, and she took me to buy bras, and it was the first time I ever bought a bra that wasn't like a teenager bra, that wasn't like cotton and like flat and had no support, and it was like pink and lacy and very feminine, very womanly, and I was feeling like I was a grown-up, right, because I needed a bigger size of bra. So she takes this bra after I've chosen it, does this with it, and we're in the middle of Asda, and it's a Sunday, and it's really busy, and there's people everywhere. And my dad's name is Carlos, right? And she's like, Carlos! And I'm like, oh no. And she's like, look at what your daughter chose. And I'm sitting there getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So I never wore that bra. But there can be kind of sexual shaming or sexual humiliation without anybody intending there to be. And sometimes it's intended. Right? And I'll give you another area where it's unintended. So I started my period very young. I started my period when I was 10 years old. Okay? My little sister was terrified. Right? I didn't do anything. It wasn't painful for me. It didn't hurt. But I remember her sitting up in bed at night praying to God never to do this to her. Right? And then my mum came in and was saying, Rachel, what's going on? That's her name, Rachel. And she was like, yeah, and she was like to me, it's disgusting. And my mum was like, it's not disgusting. All women get their period. It's going to happen to you someday. And she was like, nope, I prayed and God wouldn't let that happen. Right? So sometimes just watching a family member go through a traumatic experience traumatizes us. Okay? But sexual harassment is actually a big issue, not just in the business environment, but in families. Especially if you think, there's actually a video on YouTube yesterday, I don't know if anybody saw it, I think it was on Facebook, of a girl who's not allowed to go to school unless her strap is thicker than 3 centimeters?
3 fingers.
Yeah, it's 3 fingers her strap has to be. Otherwise, it's considered indecent. Okay? So it's things like that make it, if you imagine a girl about to go out and her parents go, you're not allowed to go out in that. Right? If you think about it out of that family context, at work or at home, you wouldn't ever say that to another adult. It's a horrible thing to say to somebody. Does that make sense? Yeah? So it's just sexual shaming, and it's giving someone an issue with their growing and evolving sexuality in an inappropriate way. Because it's totally appropriate for a mum to sit down and have a conversation with her daughter about what happens if you go out wearing specific kinds of clothing. But it's not appropriate for a mum to call her daughter a whore. It's not appropriate for you to shame your daughter and make her go upstairs and change without having a conversation. Does that make sense? Yeah? Because kids get confused. Instead of thinking there's something inappropriate with the attention I'm going to get, they think there's something inappropriate about their sexuality. Right? And that has to be really cleared up. Because people already have enough sexual issues as it is. And emotional incest, and I'll explain what that is. So if a mum loses a partner, whether it's through divorce or whether it's through death, and they don't have a strong social network of friends and family, they might use one of the children in the family to take the place of that person. Does that make sense? Yeah, you see this at funerals a lot. There's a little boy sitting on the table, his father's passed away, someone comes over to him and they say, you're now man of the house. He's 6, right? But that's really scary, but energetically that puts him in the role of taking care of his mum. Lots of dads do it to their little boys when they're away, right? They're going away to oil rigs, or they're going away to the army, or they're going away and work, and they say, you're in charge of mum while I'm gone, right? You take good care of mum. So that child is going into the role of the father whilst dad isn't there. Does that make sense? Yeah? Same thing with girls. Let's say dad is mistreating mum and he's not treating her very well, and there's a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old girl walks into the kitchen and mum's crying, and mum starts telling her all the bad things that dad did, that girl is being moved into the role of sister or aunt or mum. Does that make sense? Yeah? And because she's hearing all those things about her father, it's going to create a toxic dynamic between her and her dad. Does that make sense to everybody? So this is what emotional incest is. And this is really done unconsciously. Most parents don't even know they're doing it when they do it. And the child feels special. Okay? If you've been through that kind of abuse, you will feel special. You'll feel like your mum really liked you. Right? Like she was the favorite. Normally until either the father came back, and then suddenly you're back to being a kid again. Okay, so that child gets accustomed to this role of being really, really special and then being ignored, being really, really special and then being ignored. Okay, because that's what happens when mum and dad are fighting. I'm mum's best friend. When dad's home, she doesn't like me. Right? She wants to forget the fight even happened. She wants to make up with dad. Okay, and then you've got this kid that knows inappropriate things about her dad. Right? He brings stuff up in conversation with dad that's going to hurt him, and it's probably going to hurt mum as well. Right? Which creates this three-way triangle. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah? You also have illness, which I didn't put up on here, but which is a very important one. You can be forced into a carer role through a family member becoming mentally or physically ill. Okay? And they're not being appropriate care either by the government or by the other partner because they have to work or because they just leave. And then there's a child forced into an adult role before they're ready. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah? These are all different kinds of patterns of abuse in families. Not all abusive families are equal. Okay? They are different, they do have different shapes. That's why, has everybody here heard of Bert Hellinger? Bert Hellinger invented the most amazing family healing modality called family constellations. Okay? He's a German family healer, and he works with constellations. Now the reason he calls it constellations is because all of these have different shapes. Okay, so when you start to become more psychic and intuitive and you scan someone's energy, you can actually see the shape of the family. And based on the shape, the sacred geometric shape that you see, you know which one the person's experienced. So sometimes when I'm giving a reading, people will go to me, how do you know that that happened? But it's because the shape will be really clear to me, exactly what happened. Right? I always have to ask and to confirm, but you can see it. Okay? If you want to know what the shapes are, you can go and look up his book, Family Healing. So, if we grew up in families where independence isn't encouraged, it's hard for us to leave and to go out into the world and to become independent. And also we tend to get attacked when we do so. If we grew up in families where we were shamed for needing or wanting abundance or money, we struggle to be successful. If we grew up in families where our needs are denied or coddled, so someone can either decide that you don't get to have any needs, which tends to happen to little boys a lot. Little boys don't cry, little boys don't have feelings. Or where someone thinks your every feeling is like the most important thing on the planet. You tend to struggle with boundaries. You either say yes to everything or no to everything, but you don't know what you think or what you feel. And if you grow up in families where there's abuse, we struggle to respect and receive love from others, right? If you grew up in a family where abuse was normal, you probably think respect is a form of domination. Respect means people are allowed to abuse you. Respect is confused, so there's a belief. You get dual beliefs, it means you get two beliefs, and this is also very strongly formed in abusive families. So I'll give you an example from my life. So I grew up in a family where at home, there was an idea that I wasn't as intelligent as my brother was. Okay? They thought that he was incredibly bright and I wasn't as bright as he was. Now, at school, I did incredibly well. I was like an all-rounder. I got A's in sports and sciences and in English and academics. I was really, really good at school. So I grew up getting this message at home that I was stupid and that I was a retard. And I grew up getting this message at school that I was really bright and really capable. Does that make sense to everybody? So when you first muscle tested me for I am really bright, it would be a yes. And then if you muscle tested me for I am a retard, it would be a yes. Okay, so I developed dual beliefs because I had dual experiences. Okay, and you'll be the same because there'll be different areas of your life where your family life was different from your school life or different from your social life. And then when you're in those situations, your beliefs are different. It recently came up between me and Todd, and because I realized that, for example, when we socialize, I have a tendency to attack him if he doesn't socialize with me. So if he says I've got to work or I can't, I have a tendency to get angry. Okay? But if we're in private and he says I have to work or whatever, nothing happens. Does that make sense? I had a dual belief. I had a dual belief that working when we're in private is fine, but working around social situations equals abuse. Okay? And I had to muscle test the two to find them. So you have different beliefs in different situations. Okay? Because you constructed them differently in your mind. So it's totally, that explains why sometimes in some healing sessions you muscle test no for that issue, and then 2 weeks later you're muscle testing yes. They've got a different personality, they've got a different part of you. Does that make sense? Right. If I do a healing for one of you guys in front of the room, you're in a social situation, in a social context. Okay? Whereas if I do a healing with you guys in the office, or in a private situation, right? So I get a different personality, a different energy system than I do when someone's up here getting a healing. Okay? And that's how they can muscle test differently for different beliefs. It's got nothing to do with muscle testing not being accurate and everything to do with the person having different energies based on the environment that they're in. Okay? Okay, so we're going to do some removal of beliefs. So is it all right? Okay, so just everybody close your eyes. And actually, do you guys want to stand up? Can we all hold hands for a minute? We'll just start off with the Theta Healing Prayer. Reach out for the people behind you. There you go. Start actually doing the healing. So this is Anna Kitney's version of the Theta Healing Prayer. Okay, deep breath in and out. Deep breath in and out. O Great Spirit, Father Sky, Mother Earth, the winds, the waters, my Father, my Mother, Atanaha, all that is. I thank you for my life, and I thank you for these good, good people. I thank you for all that we are and for all that we are to become. I dedicate our time spent with one another, our healing and our relationships with one another to you. Aho, Amen, Namaste. There you go. Okay, you can all sit back down again. Just open up the space before we do this. So I'm just going to guide you guys all up to 7th plane. We're going to remove some beliefs, and then we're going to put in some beliefs, some good ones. Then I'm going to give you a break because the chocolates I promised you last week are going to come out of the freezer. And then I'll do a demonstration healing for whoever creator tells me to do a demonstration healing on. Does that sound like a plan? Okay. So just close your eyes for me and imagine you're in this big bubble of white light. And just know that no fear can enter the white light and nothing inside the white light can be harmed or hurt. And I want you to feel the energy of the earth coming up through your feet, into your knees and thighs, into your hips, into your tummy, into your heart, your lungs, your shoulders, your neck, your scalp, and all the tiny little muscles inside your scalp. Your eyes and all the tiny little muscles behind your eyes. And then I want you to imagine that you're floating out to the top of your head. Out into the sky. This beautiful, soft blue sky. Out of the sky and into the solar system. Out of the solar system and into the galaxy. Out of the galaxy, and into the universe, just flying and enjoying the feeling of being free until you come to the very edge of the multiverse. And then flying through into this beautiful bright white light. And flying through this white sparkly light, and then through this dark sparkly light, and then through another big white sparkly light, until you come to this sticky green substance, which is the laws of the universe. And then you fly through that, and then you come to this pink energy, which is the law of compassion. And you fly up and out through that into the 7th plane, where you're one with Creator of all that is. So I'm just going to read out the beliefs I'm going to remove and then ask if you'd like these removed, and just say yes if you'd like these removed. So can I remove the belief, I hate my family, I repeat my family's patterns, I never want to have a family, everything is my family's fault, I don't want to be like or with my family, spending time with my family is abuse, families are abusive. Okay, thank you. It's done. Show me. Can I release the belief that family wounds don't heal? Yes. That if you heal a family issue, you're violating your family's free will? Yes. And can we show you Creator's truth about that? Yes. Can Creator download to you that the law of grace, the law of atonement, and the law of karma bend the law of free agency? And that you're allowed to bend it and the law of karma in the highest and best way in family situations and relationships? Yes. Would you like to know that it's possible to heal your family? Yes. So I want you to imagine in your mind, just repeat in your mind after me, Creator of all that is, it is commanded that unconditional love be sent to my family and my entire ancestral line now. Thank you, it's done, it's done. Show me. And just see this beautiful ray of white light pouring down on your family, on every member, known or unknown to you, and all the way down your ancestral line. Across all lifetimes, levels, planes, and dimensions. See unconditional love going to the soul of every person in your family. And we're going to command that all contracts and agreements that you have with your family that aren't for your highest and best good be brought to us now. Thank you, it's done, show us. And just see Creator taking us down to the 6th plane of existence, into this huge library, which is also known as the Akashic, and seeing this nice table covered in contracts. And you'll notice that there's a purple flame in the fireplace, and this is also known as the diamond violet flame. And I want you to imagine carrying all of these contracts, which aren't for your highest and best good, over to that purple flame and putting them in. And in your mind saying, it's now commanded that all of these contracts be cleared across all levels, times, planes, and dimensions, including crossover contracts, infinite contracts, self-replicating contracts, magical contracts, curses, and blessings. Thank you, it's done, show me. And imagine all those contracts burning away, back to the nothingness from whence they came. And can Creator download to you all that sometimes blessings don't serve? Yeah? That if your family thought that it was a blessing for you to be alone, that might not be a good blessing. Yeah? That if you were told by your family that an illness was a blessing in disguise, that might also not be a good blessing. Yeah? So these are the only kinds of blessings that we're allowing to be transmuted here. Blessings which weren't for your highest and best good. There you go. Some of you weren't letting some of the blessings go. So can I release any ways in which you obligate your family, your children, your partner, your parents, your siblings, to replay unresolved family business that you have from childhood and from other lifetimes?
Yes.
Would you like to be able to recognize when this is occurring?
Yes.
Would you like to free your family from the obligation of evoking your unresolved fears and traumas from all levels, lifetimes, planes, and dimensions? Would you like to know how you can actively go to Creator or within or to your guides to heal? Yes. Would you like to free your children from the obligation of living your lost dreams and legacies? Yes. Would you like to know how to love your children as they reach for, achieve, and embody their own dreams? Yes. Would you like to know the difference between caring for your family and controlling your family? Yes. Would you like to know how to live without obligating others to control you so that you can feel safe? Can we download you with what safety is? Yes. With what loyalty is and what it feels like? Yes. With how to have loving family dynamics? Yes. Can I release the belief that your family is the place where you learn your lessons? Yes. And can Creator show you the highest truth about your family? Yes. Can Creator show you how to relate to your family from a place of love and pleasure? Can we give you Creator's perspective, definition, understanding of time with your family? Yes. Can Creator show you that it can be a joy and a pleasure? Yes. Can Creator show you that your highest purpose with your family is to enjoy, to share, to give, and to receive love, not to learn? Yes. Can Creator show you that you can learn through and with your family if you're willing to learn through love? Yes. Can I release the belief that your family are the people who hurt you the most? Can I release the belief that if you trust your family, they will hurt you? Yes. Can Creator show you that it's unresolved healing issues and wounds that hurt you and your family? Yes. Not the untrustworthy nature or the abusive nature of people, but unresolved wounds? Yes. Would you like to live without obligating authority figures such as the police, your boss, or your partner to resolve unfinished family business with you? Okay, thank you. It's done. It's done. Show me. Can we give you Creator's definition of healing your family and developing your family relationships? Yes. Would you like to have Creator's definition of what it feels like to heal your family relationships in the highest and best way? Yes. Would you like to know how to live your daily life enjoying your family relationships to the fullest? Would you like Creator's perspective on your family? Yes. Would you like to know it's possible to heal your family relationships and release your full potential as a family member? Yes. Thank you. It's done. It's done. Show me. Would you like to know that you no longer need to abide by your family's rules? To know it's safe to step out of these restrictions and to feel that it's possible? To know how to live your daily life free from these rules? Would you like to heal any damage caused to you by your family? Yes. Would you like Creator to heal any damage done to you or others by family soul contracts and to rewrite these contracts so that family absolution is granted to you and your family? Yes. Would you like to know that you can still be loved and accepted without having to follow your family's rules or orders? Yes. Would you like to know how to live without being emotionally, mentally, or spiritually dominated by your family's energy? Yes. Can we download you with how to tell the difference between your energy and the energy of your family and the energy of your ancestors? Yes. Would you like to know how to separate your family's projections of who you are and how the world is and what other people are and what your character is from Creator's truth about you and other people in the world?
Yes.
Would you like to have Creator's truth about your abilities and your destiny?
Yes.
Would you like to have Creator's truth about your potential?
Yes.
Would you like to know what a family's love feels like?
Yes.
Would you like to know you can live without viewing yourself and others through the lens of your family's opinions?
Yes.
Would you like to know how to love and accept all parts of yourself and your family, to know it's possible, to know what it feels like, to know that it's safe?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. It's done. It's done. Show me. Okay. Oh, okay. Would you like to know what it feels like and how to release all family traumas?
Yes.
Can I complete all family curses?
Yes.
Including any curses that you receive never to start a family of your own or to spend the rest of your days alone?
Yes.
Can I release any beliefs that if you believe your family, you have to kill yourself?
Yes.
Can I release any obligations that you have to keep your family secrets?
Yes.
To keep abuse a secret? Can I release fears that you have of remembering family abuse?
Yes.
And also of remembering the love of your family for you?
Yes.
Can Creator show you how to forgive your family for all the mistakes that they made with you?
Yes.
Can Creator show you the difference between forgiveness and being a doormat, between forgiveness and allowing abusive behavior?
Yes.
And can we download you with what forgiveness really is and what it feels like?
Yes.
Can we release all negative karma that's holding you and your family at lower vibration?
Yes.
Thank you. It's done. It's done. Show me. Can Creator show you the difference between your anger at your family and protection? Can Creator show you how to release the anger and still have boundaries and know how to keep yourself safe around your family?
Yes.
Can Creator show you the difference between psychological defenses such as anger, jealousy, neglect, self-isolation or self-sabotage, and boundaries?
Yes.
And can Creator show you that boundaries are created by integrity, by clear communication, and by the strength to stand for what you truly believe and what your heart truly desires?
Yes.
And can we download you with how to create boundaries through using your virtues instead of through using negativity?
Yes.
Can Creator teach you the difference between someone setting a boundary with you and someone attacking you?
Yes.
Can Creator teach you how to respect other people's boundaries?
Yes.
And how to lovingly allow people to have boundaries in the highest and best way, without drama, without feeling neglected, without feeling like they don't love you?
Yes.
Can I release the belief that you know what's best for your family?
Yes.
And can we download to you that Creator is the healer and you are the witness, and that Creator knows what's best for everyone involved?
Yes.
Would you like to know what it feels like and how to release old grudges towards your family?
Yes.
Would you like to know how to be around your family without remembering past pain?
Yes.
Would you like to know how to be yourself with your family?
Yes.
How to share your achievements with your family? How to share your real feelings with your family?
Yes.
Thank you. It's done. It's done. Show me. Can Creator show you all that there are different kinds of families? And how to respect all the different kinds of families? Can Creator show you the difference between forgiveness and superiority? Yes. And how to forgive without being spiritually superior? Yes. There we go. Can I release the belief that it's your job to save your family? Yes. Can I release the belief that it's your job to clear all of your family's karma and resolve all of their lessons and learnings? Yes. And can we show you what your real place and purpose in your family is? Yes. Can Creator show you how to be in your family and be in your role and in your place, and how to fill that place and shine your light in the highest and best way? Yes. How to be around your family members without taking the place of their mother or father or boss or God. Yes. How to just be yourself around people that you love. Can Creator show you how to live without obligating your lovers or soulmates to resolve old family business with you? Yes. Can Creator show some of you how to live without dating your fathers? Yes. And others of you how to live without dating your mothers? Yes. Can we release the belief that you have to carry old parental trauma around with you so that you don't repeat it? Yes. Can Creator show you how to stop traumatic patterns from repeating themselves without needing to carry old trauma with you to remind you? Yes. Can Creator show you how to be around your family without trying to punish them or hurt them? Can Creator show you that you're able to heal your own family and the family of others? Yes. Can Creator download you with what an instant family healing is and that it's possible? Yes. Okay. So just when you're ready, taking a deep breath in. Just back up to 7th plane. And then wriggling your fingers and your toes. And opening your eyes. Just going to stay connected until the end of the night. You guys are all looking bright and shiny. So there's teacups in the corner if you want to make yourself a cup of tea. Bathroom's over there. And there's water here with little plastic cups next to it. We'll start again in about 10 minutes, okay? Is that okay with everybody? Okay, 10 to 9. So I'm going to close my eyes and stick your hands up if you would like a healing demo, or we would like to be my healing demo for family healing. Okay, come on. Come to me. Okay, so what's the first thing you do when you do a healing with someone? First thing? Something way more basic. Build rapport. Okay, first thing you want to do is you want to ask, so how are you doing, Nicoletta?
Good.
Was it okay getting here tonight?
Yes. Crazy, but I made it.
Did you like your chocolate?
I loved my chocolate. That was the best.
How did you guys think of, what did you guys think of the chocolate? Did I do okay? Yeah? I'm still a budding chocolate baby, but we'll see. You'll have my next experiment next week. So it's really good to see you. What would you like to work on today?
Oh. I think my relationship with my family.
Okay. So stick your hand out for me. Let's just be a muscle test. So yes, yes, yes?
Yes, yes, yes.
No. 1, 2, 3. Deep breath in. And again, deep breath out. Okay. So yes, yes, yes. Nice and strong for me.
Yes, yes, yes.
Better. One more time. Yes, yes, yes?
Yes, yes, yes.
Good. And no, no, no.
No, no, no.
Good. Okay. So my name is Nicoletta.
My name is Nicoletta.
Good. I'm a woman.
I'm a woman.
I'm a healer.
I'm a healer.
I'm healthy.
I'm healthy.
I can heal.
I can heal.
I love my family.
I love my family.
Okay. It's safe for me to heal my family.
It's safe for me to heal my family.
Yes, good. Some of the downloads did go in. I know how to forgive.
I know how to forgive.
Good. My family abuses me.
My family abuses me.
No, good. I have to create conflict in order to be safe.
I have to create conflict in order to be safe.
No. I know how to be myself around my family.
I know how to be myself around my family.
No. I have to hide who I am in order to fit in.
I have to hide who I am in order to fit in.
Yes. If my family knew who I really was, they would reject me.
My family knew who I really was, they would reject me.
Yeah. Okay. So what's the worst thing about your family rejecting you if they know who you really are?
I'll feel alone.
And what's the worst thing about feeling alone?
I feel sad.
And if you're alone and sad, what happens? You're doing really well.
I'd feel empty. There'd be no purpose.
What's the worst thing about losing your purpose?
I would not exist.
And if you don't exist, what happens?
I die.
What happens after you die?
We go to hell.
And what's the worst thing about being in hell? You're doing really good. Right, so if you're in theta healing, well, you keep going down. If the tree is here, right, and there are beliefs that are all the leaves on the tree, we're about halfway down the trunk right now. Okay, we need to keep going for at least another 2 minutes to get to the root. Does that make sense? Can everybody see how she's doing really great? Because she was about here when we started, and she's getting to the emotional level in the solar plexus, but now is where the actual fear is coming in, right? She's bounced back a few times. She's gone from here to here. Can everyone see that? Yeah? So we'll keep going for a little bit longer. So what's the worst thing about being in hell? And God hating you and sending you to hell?
Well, God would hate me. I never be able to reach light again.
How does that feel to never see the light again?
I think it's worse than dying.
What's worse than dying? Stay right there. I know it's uncomfortable, but that's really good.
It's not exist. It's like continuously going in a circle with no getting out.
So you feel trapped.
Yes, it's like your worst imaginable nightmare.
So if you have to live your worst nightmare and God is doing this to you, how do you feel about God?
No, I hate him.
What's the worst thing about hating God?
Okay. If I hate him, I hate me a little bit too.
Okay. So can we muscle test? Yes, yes, yes. Nice and firm.
Yes, yes, yes.
No, no, no.
No, no, no.
Good. If I hate God, I have to hate myself.
I hate God, I have to hate myself.
If I hate God, I have to hate myself because I am God.
If I hate God, I have to hate myself because I am God.
If I am God, I am responsible for everybody in the universe.
I'm God, I'm responsible for everybody in the universe.
If I'm God, then I hate myself because I send people to hell.
If I am God, then I hate myself because I send people to hell.
Okay. It's safe for me to love God.
It's safe for me to love God.
Okay. I hate being connected to God all the time. You're doing really well.
I hate being connected to God all the time.
No, it's not bad. That's a maybe. I'm all right with it. Right. 1, 2, 3, 7. Did everybody see her energy field fall? Yeah? So you can see it in her body language that she was testing firm, and then the moment we took it to that belief, her whole body sunk forwards. Does that make sense? Which means the support she was getting from her front meridians went because there was pain here. Does that make sense? Yeah? This is what was holding at her, the front of her aura. And the moment there was pain here, she collapsed because she knew she had to protect this instead of use it to hold her energy out. Okay? So I had to zip up her energy field again. And then we had to muscle test again. Yes, yes, yes?
Yes.
Good. No, no, no.
No.
Good. Okay. Sorry, this is me asking Creator, what next? I know how to have a relationship with God.
I know how to have a relationship with God.
God tortured me.
God tortured me.
God tortures people.
God tortures people.
God is evil.
God is evil.
God is the root of all evil. Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
Good. No, no, no.
No.
God is the root of all evil.
God is the root of all evil.
Yes. Okay. So can we release that?
Yeah.
You did really, really well. Okay, that wasn't an easy one to find. Okay. Would anybody else like that belief removed too? Yeah? Yeah? Okay. So can I release that belief on all levels?
Yes.
And can we send unconditional love to the part of you that is tortured by God?
Yes.
Okay, so this is going to sound like a very cruel question, right? But it's important because otherwise she's not going to let this go. What did you learn from being in hell?
There's nowhere else to go.
There's nowhere else to go. So you learned to stay where you are.
Yes.
What else did you learn? You're doing really good. Very proud of you. I've got you. Creator's got you. You're safe.
To repeat the question.
What else did you learn other than to stay instead of leave?
That there's no point in staying. There's no good there.
So you learned you have a choice.
Yes.
What did you learn about punishing people? Does it work?
No.
No. So you learned that punishment doesn't have a purpose.
No.
What were you trying to learn by going to hell?
How to love.
How to love. So can we download you with how to stay in one place when it's the right thing to do?
Yes.
And that you're allowed to stay and how to enjoy being where you are?
Yes.
And can Creator download you with what it feels like to love and to know how to love?
Yes.
And can we release the belief that love is punishment and love is judgment?
Yes.
Any confusion that you have between judgment and punishment and boundaries?
Yes.
And show you Creator's truth about justice and the difference between justice and punishment?
Yes.
Can I release the belief that real justice means people who have created hell for others having to experience hell?
Yes.
And can we show you Creator's truth that real justice means the end of all suffering for everyone?
Yes.
Can I release the belief that you have to go to hell or go through hell to learn love or to learn how to love?
Yes.
Now, we're not healing a life here, we're healing an in-between life. Does that make sense? Yeah? Because in between lifetimes, when she was learning from the Christian lifetime energy system, she went to hell because she disobeyed Christian God's rules. Does that make sense? So she has shock and trauma from spending about, in human times, a good 50 to 60 years in between incarnations in a hell-like environment on the astral. Does that make sense? So can I release the shock and trauma of that environment? Would that be okay?
Yes.
And can we download to your DNA and to your body that that's over now?
Yes.
Oh. And can Creator show you how to recognize PTSD that you got from that environment? And that it's possible to heal that.
Yes.
And that it's possible to heal trauma.
Yes.
Can Creator show you that hell did end?
Yes.
And can Creator show you that that hell wasn't real, that it doesn't really exist?
Yes.
And show you the difference between what you believed when you were in that experience and what the actual truth of the universe was or the afterlife was?
Yes.
Can Creator show you that you can die without going to heaven or hell, that there's a whole multiverse out there?
Yes.
And give you permission to explore the possibilities?
Yes.
Can I complete the lessons you were learning from Christianity?
Yes.
Can Creator show you that you can always be connected to the Christ light, that you can always be connected to Creator, that you can have all the virtues, and that you can learn all the spiritual lessons without having to have hell to motivate you?
Yes.
Would you like to know how to be inspired by love, by creativity, and by Creator's light instead of by suffering or by hell?
Yes.
Can I release all those beliefs that Creator hates you, that you are Creator?
Yes.
Can Creator show you how Creator can be within you and around you and working through you and channeling through you without you being 100% Creator?
Yes.
Can we release the belief that you're responsible for the world and for the planet?
Yes.
And any guilt that you have from sending people to hell on the level that you are Creator?
Yes.
And can Creator show you that that's just an astral system on the fourth plane? That that's not the ultimate truth, it's not Creator doing that, it's still human consciousness on a fourth plane level. Would that be okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. It's done, show me. And can I release the belief that you deserve to go to hell because you killed other people or because you sacrificed other people?
Yes.
And can I release the belief that there is only one true God?
Yes.
And can we show you Creator's truth and allow you to have your own experience of many gods
Yes.
and to know Creator is separate from gods on the fifth plane?
Yes.
Can Creator show you that you can love and honor the different gods without having to sacrifice yourself or prove yourself to those gods and still be connected to Creator?
Yes.
Can Creator show you how to relate to your family as you, as a daughter, as an aunt, instead of God?
Yes.
Can you guys see how that might create problems in the family dynamic if you have someone thinking they're God? Yeah? Superiority complex. Can we release the belief that you are superior to your family and to the world and that you're just here to teach everyone else lessons?
Yes.
Thank you. And can we show you Creator's truth that you're here to be loved and to shine the beautiful light that you are?
Yes.
There we go. And can I release the belief that other healers are rivals for your position as the one true God?
Yes.
And can Creator show you how all healers and how all people are connected with Creator?
Yes.
And how you can all be connected with the one true Creator?
Yes.
Without competing, without creating rivalry, without creating war in order to prove that your God is the best God?
Yes.
Can I release the shock and trauma of any religious wars still going on inside you?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now can we download you with I'm allowed to love my family?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to complete the healing, complete the lessons. Can we download you with how to love Creator without being Him
Yes.
or it?
Yes.
And can Creator show you how to be a loving person without having to carry around the trauma of going to hell to remind you that you're a spiritual being and that you are love?
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to zip you up and then stick your arm out for me again. Turn it that way. Let me go, yes, yes, yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
No, no, no.
No. No. No.
Okay, she's muscle testing right, but her aura is still a bit weaker again. So we'll just balance her out. Okay, yes, yes, yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Good. No, no, no.
No. No. No.
Okay. So I'm allowed to love my family.
I'm allowed to love my family.
I can live my purpose.
I can live my purpose.
I am in hell.
I am in hell.
No. Still stuff there, but no. I know how to learn through joy.
I know how to learn through joy.
Say it again.
I know how to learn through joy.
I need to be in hell to learn.
I need to be in hell to learn.
No. I know how to be with my family and be myself.
I know how to be with my family and be myself.
I know how to be myself with my family and be accepted.
I know how to be myself with
My family
my
and...
family and be accepted.
Good. Well done. You guys want to give her a round of applause? Thank you, darling. So do you guys see how a belief that we started working on family and we ended up working on an in-between life and a trauma and then on our relationship with God? Yeah? So the bottom belief is often unrelated. And if we tried to just work on family stuff, we would have been going round and round in circles and she would still felt like her family wouldn't have been able to accept her. We worked on that in-between life where she was stuck in a hellish type space on the fourth plane. And we resolved those traumas and resolved those lessons. And when we resolved that, suddenly she was allowed to be herself, right? Because she didn't fear being sent back to hell by God or by her family if she were to do that, right? And her family suddenly isn't obligated to protect her from hell by punishing her if she doesn't behave the way God would want her to behave. Does that resonate with everybody? Yeah? So I'm going to open up the floor and I'll speak to, I'll channel the Creator and do downloads or healings for anybody who wants for the next 10 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to close my eyes. Stick your hands up if you want a quick reading, and thank you very much, Wigs. You can relax for the evening.